Hello everyone, my name is Shanken Chen. You can also call me Dr. Chen. So in this episode, I would like to introduce you about the construction of the violin. So at the last episode, if you already watched, I talked about a little bit history of the violin. So this episode, I would like to introduce you more detail about the violin instrument itself. So typically, think about it, if you are a violin maker, or like we said, luthier from the last episode, because at the beginning the lute was made by the luthier or the repairman. So we also call the violin maker as a luthier. Okay, so if you are a violin maker, how are you going to create a kind of the violin? So first, you might have to draw some pictures for each part of the violin on the paper. And then you might have to use some rulers or measurements to measure the length or how long or different size of the violin before you really carve the woods, right? So that's how usually the violin maker, they would do. Draw the pictures first and then measurement, and then started to dig in for the to make the violin. And okay, so a typical violin was kind of a pickup. So that means you have, just like a puzzle, you have to put different parts together. So usually, typically, we have three kinds of wood would be used for the maker. One is called the spruce, and the other one is the maple, and the third one is ebony. So spruce, S-P-R-U-C-E, this kind of wood is very normal to see in Italy. And if you are in Taiwan, maybe you have to go to like Sanlinxi, those kind of areas. You can find those very similar woods of spruce. So usually a violin's surface, this piece of the wood we call top, T-O-P. It usually made by the spruce, the type of the wood. And so the maker would cut the wood first, and then they have to make a sound hole here for both sides. And the violin's typical sound hole is a F sign, as you see here. And how does this sound hole or F hole doing for the sound? Oh, it is very important for the box, the whole body, to breathe. And also it is very important for the vibration. So that's why you will have the sound hole here. So the top is usually made from the spruce, okay? And as you see here, the wood is called ribs from both sides of the violin. And also the back is also a piece of the violin. So for both back and the ribs, it usually made from the maple. So what is maple? M-A-P-L-E. Maple is also a type of the wood. If you look at the Canada's country's flower, or maybe the sign or their logo, you will see the maple. Or if you like to eat a pancake for your breakfast, you will have maple syrup, right? Or sometimes if you have sore throat, your doctor might prescribe a maple syrup for you, so to help your throat. So that's called maple. So for ribs and back, the violin makers, they will use maple. And okay, so the other thing is, at the top of the violin, you will see the head is called the scroll, S-C-R-O-L-L. it usually carved from a piece till the neck here as a one piece. So the maker will carve the scroll first and then the neck of the violin. It also made from the maple, the same thing as ribs and the back. And the one you see here, a piece of black wood, it was usually made from ebony, E-B-O-N-Y. Ebony is a black color of the wood. So as you see here, the fingerboard, this is called the fingerboard, is also black, right? So fingerboard usually will made from made by the ebony. Sometimes you will see the tailpiece. This piece is called tailpiece, T-A-I-L-P-I-E-C-E. Tailpiece was made by the ebony, the same thing. And also 4 pegs, P-E-G, pegs were also made by the ebony. But in my violin, you will see it's not black. Peg is not black because it's typical to use by ebony, but not usually or not have to be made by the ebony. It can be different types of wood. Okay. So this is how 3 types of wood would use on the violin. And for the back, the piece of the back, usually you will see it's only one piece, or it could be 2 pieces matching together. So how does the violin maker do 2 pieces? Imagine if you are cutting a cake, a round cake, just like when you cut the wood from a tree. So you will use your knife to give a 2 shots, like one and the other and the second one, and you will pull out your cake just like you pull out your wood, and then you will flip it, the piece of cake or piece of wood, to the surface like this way. So you will become 2 pieces, right? Just like the violin maker did. And there is no actually good or bad for only 1 piece or 2 pieces. I think if it came from 2 pieces, it's also a big challenge for the violin makers. So 2 pieces is much harder work than on just 1 piece, right? And usually you will see a lot of stripes matching on top of the back. It's called flame, F-L-A-M-E, just like the fire. So typically the violin maker, they will put up just like a painting to the surface of the back as different stripes, just like a fire. That's typically. But also you will see some earlier violins, they have not only the stripes, but also some decoration on top of it. Just think about maybe it's a piece of paper. You can draw flowers or some human beings, characters on top of the paper. So just like a paper, but instead it is a violin at wood surface, and you can carve on top of it. Okay. And for the violin's scroll, you might wonder where does this shape came from. If you look at some Greek design of the column for the buildings, the big columns for the buildings, you might easily to see those kind of spiral shape of design for the columns. So this is where the violin scroll came from. Okay, and somebody just say maybe it's just like a hanger, like when you hanging something there, you have to grab by your hands. Somebody says just like kind of a hanger, okay? And this is just a typical violin scroll. You can also see some different violin scroll like animals or maybe human beings or humans' faces on top of the scroll, okay? And we already talked about the neck here came from one piece of a wood from the scroll to the neck, okay? And this part is called pack box. Usually, if you have 4 strings on the instruments, you need to have 4 packs in the pack box, okay? So how does the pack do? If you pull it out, it's a piece of wood and there is a tiny hole on top of the wood, and then you will use your string to insert to the hole through the hole on the top of the pack, and then tie it up for the strings. On the other side of the string, on the other side of the pack, you will tune or tie it up on your pack on the tailpiece. So in that way, from the both sides, you will kind of tie it up for the strings. And the pack box will do is like when you tune the violin, tuning, okay? So imagine if you have a rubber band, it's the same thing. You hold it rubber band by both of your hands, and when it's getting longer, you will have like lower sound. And if it's getting smaller or shorter, you will get higher sound. It is the same thing for the violin strings tied it up. Okay? Fingerboard has to glue or maybe use some materials to attach to the neck. Okay? And the fingerboard do is when you play the violin, you will use your left hand fingers to place down on the fingerboard. And as long as you play the violin for kind of a while, the whole fingerboard has to be replaced. Because when you press down your fingers, you will get certain pressure down to the fingerboard. And when you use the fingerboard for quite a while, it has to be replaced. It will become lower and lower each time, and it will become very hard for the violinist to place down the fingers. So it has to be replaced. The other things you are going to see here is called the bridge. It's a piece of the wood. It was holding up the 4 strings. This one, the bridge, has to also replace for a while. So you cannot use it forever. It has to be replaced. And the end of the tailpiece, you will see a tiny little eye is called end pin, E-N-D-P-I-N. End pin would hold the tailpiece to attach to the violin's back. So the whole thing can be tied up on the violin's body. Okay, so this is how the violin goes. And inside of the body or inside of the violin instruments, you will see there is a kind of bass bar on back of the top. So if you flip the top surface to the inside, there is a bass bar across from the top to the end of the violin. This also can emphasize the vibration for the body, the vibration for the violin sound. Okay, so this is also very important design for the whole violin. Okay, so I think this will be much about all the construction or the part of the violin. Thank you for your attention.